Quick video to show you all how to use the Excel spreadsheet I created to make a graph for your Milestone 2 assignment in ECO 201. So what you're going to do is when you open it, and I hope you're all getting an early start because this assignment does take a significant amount of time, much more than Milestone 1. And if you're not, I'm glad you're here anyway. What you will do, and the steps are listed in this file, but some people just get overwhelmed with numbers and creating graphs and all of that. So let's just walk through and do this together. The firm I am talking about here is Expedia. So in this, things are yellow that you need to fill out. And right in here, I'm going to put that's the firm, the time period studied. So again, you want to look at the most recent 5 years. Right now, it happens to be 2018. We're far enough in that 2017 financial statements have been summarized. So the most recent year is 2017. And so working backwards, we are going to go back to 2013 for the data. So you want to enter the earliest year up here and the most recent year down here. And where we're going to be getting this data from is your firm's income statement. Now you're probably looking at me thinking, well, I have to look up 5 different income statements to do this for all these different years. And you could do it that way, and that's totally fine. But there is a faster way that I like to use, which is Morningstar has your income statements for the last 5 years lined up all nicely with the numbers you'll need. So that is a great resource. Also, to access this Excel sheet along with some other written tips I have for writing Milestone 2, you can look in the general questions discussion board, and there's all sorts of resources there, including a link at the bottom to this Excel file. So that is what we are going over right now. So back to that, we have now entered our firm and the years. So that part's pretty straightforward. Now what we're going to do is enter your revenue data. And that's when we're talking about demand trends, we're looking at the trends in revenue. So you want to make sure everything's labeled appropriately. So for revenue, how are your numbers displayed? And in here it says US dollars in millions. So that's correct. We do have millions, but if yours are in billions, you would just simply click on this box, change to billions or what have you. And then what you're going to go ahead and do, and these are just the blank generic numbers that appear in there. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my sheet and enter the numbers from this first line, which says revenue, into the Excel spreadsheet. So now we have our revenue data in here. We've entered it in these boxes. And it's important to remember that this is annual data. So sometimes you'll see quarterly data for your firm, but that's not what we want here because at the quarters, there are different seasons of the year, especially for some firms, seasonality is very important where they sell a lot of product a certain time of year. So you want to make sure we're looking at the annual period. And so sales is what we're talking about. We're talking about demand trends. We also want to look at some supply conditions in Milestone 2. So what we're going to look at there is the cost of goods sold. Sometimes this has a different label. Sometimes it's cost of revenue. But either way, when you go to your income statement, it's going to be that line right under revenue. So this line you're looking at, or in this case for Expedia, it's not cost of goods sold, it's cost of revenue. So you'll look at that second line on the income statement for this. So let's go ahead and enter that. So now we have our cost of goods sold data to look at supply conditions. And again, if you changed your unit in revenue, you're going to want to change it in cost of goods sold because the income statement usually should be standardized. So you want to double check that. Again, we're looking at annual data. So make sure you have everything correct. And then the best part about it is you now have a chart that you can copy and paste into your paper to meet the requirement of one of the critical elements from the supply and demand section. So you can see here, before I even start to talk about what the demand trends are, I might have my ideas about Expedia going into this. Some of you might have strong opinions about your firm and say, oh, demand's going up. Well, make sure it is. And again, look for things that stick out. So the demand for Expedia, we're talking about revenue, has been pretty consistently increasing, but there was a pretty big jump between 2015 and 2016. It was kind of going linear, stepped up, and then it's back to a more normal growth rate. So what I'm going to want to look for as I'm writing this section is what happened during this time period to really increase demand. The other thing is cost of goods sold is also going up pretty consistently. And so what I want to look for there is what might be causing that. What we do know is that when you're selling more, usually your costs are going to go up also. So some of that could just be from having a higher volume of sales, but it's important to dig into that. But before you do digging, you want to make sure you see the trend overall. Again, for Expedia, it's pretty consistently rising. There's 2015, something big happened between 2015 and 2016. And we need to find out what that is as we write the paper, but for now we know where to look and we know our trends. So getting this data together is the first big step in writing milestone 2.